The donor party was supposed to be harmless, glass walls, soft music, the kind of night where people pretend they're relaxed because money already made the hard decisions for them. I stood near the edge of the room with a drink I hadn't touched, watching reflections slide across the polished floor like nervous thoughts. Everyone smiled the same way, wide, trained, temporary. The kind of smile you learn when your income depends on people believing you're decent. Calla moved through the room like she owned the air, perfect posture, perfect laugh. She didn't look for me. She never did anymore. She just assumed I'd be where I was useful. I told myself not to read into it. That's what loyal people do. They translate discomfort into excuses and call it love. Then I saw him. Briggs Harlan didn't blend in. He didn't need to. He stood half a step behind her, close enough to be intentional. His hand hovered near her lower back like it had memorized the shape. He laughed a fraction too late at her jokes, the way men do when they're already invested. I watched the moment happen, the one you never forget, because your body reacts before your brain does. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She leaned back. Not casually, not accidentally. She sat in his lap, laughed. Someone nearby clapped at a speech I didn't hear. Glasses clinked. Music swelled. The room stayed warm and bright, like nothing important had just snapped in half. "We're just friends," she said while sitting in his lap laughing. I didn't react. That surprised me more than anything. I stood and left party silently. No confrontation, no raised voice, no dramatic exit. I walked past the ice sculpture and the donor wall and the people who would pretend later they hadn't seen a thing. In the parking lot, the night air felt cleaner. Honest. I sat in my car for a moment and let the quiet settle. I thought about all the times I'd been told I was too calm, too patient, too forgiving. Turns out patience isn't kindness. It's practice. I checked my phone. 3 missed messages already. I didn't open them. Instead, I opened the shared account settings, the ones tied to convenience, rides, payments, small comforts people forget are borrowed. Blocked her phone from the Uber. It wasn't revenge, not yet. It was boundary correction. I drove home without music. The city blurred past like it was embarrassed for me. At 2:57 a.m., my phone buzzed again, then stopped. At 3:01, the door camera sent a notification. She appeared at my house. 3 a.m. screaming my name and loudly banging on the door. She shouted first, then cried, then shouted again. Her voice cracked in ways I recognized. I knew every version of it. I'd memorized that sound over years of choosing compromise over truth. I sat on the couch in the dark and didn't move. I stayed silent. Neighbors' lights flicked on one by one. Someone's porch light snapped bright. A car passed slowly, curious. She slid down the door at some point. I could see it on the camera, her back against the wood, knees pulled in, face buried in her hands. A performance meant for an audience that no longer existed. She remained crying until daylight. The sky changed color while she stayed there, blue to gray to pale morning. When she finally stood, her movements were stiff, like gravity had doubled overnight. She looked straight at the camera before she left, not angry, afraid. I waited another 10 minutes after she disappeared down the street before I moved. In the kitchen, I poured coffee and watched steam rise like something leaving quietly. I didn't feel broken. I felt focused. People think betrayal is loud. It isn't. It's administrative. It's schedules and permissions, and who has access to what. And I suddenly understood something important. I wasn't married anymore. I was managing an exit. I picked up my phone and scrolled through messages without opening them. One name stood out among the missed calls, not hers. Mina. She hadn't called during the party. or the night. She waited until morning. Smart. That's when I knew this wasn't just between three people. It never is. I took a sip of coffee and smiled at nothing. Because the moment she sat in his lap, they thought the story was over. They thought I was the quiet part. They were wrong. The thing nobody tells you about humiliation is how quickly it turns into routine. By 7:12 a.m., the street looked normal again. Kids' backpacks. A dog barking at nothing. A neighbor pretending not to notice the faint smudges on my front door where Kala's hands had been. And inside my house, the silence felt organized. I didn't check her messages, not because I was strong, because I was curious what she'd do when the usual buttons didn't work. My phone buzzed again. Mina Oakes. Not a dramatic text. No emojis. No. Are you okay? Like a person fishing for a role in the story. Just, if you're home, I can stop by, 10 minutes. I stared at it, then typed back, make it 5. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I gave her a deadline. That's the difference between a conversation and a negotiation. I showered, changed, and made the house look like a man who slept just fine. I didn't, but presentation matters. People like Kala live off presentation. If you want to unsettle them, you look steady. At 7:28, Mina's car rolled up slow, like she was trying to avoid waking gossip. She knocked once, quiet, then again, still quiet. When I opened the door, she didn't step in right away. She did that quick scan people do when they're checking whether chaos has teeth. Is she here? She asked. I tilted my head. Should she be? Mina's mouth tightened, like she regretted using words. She left early. I noticed. She looked at the faint marks on the door, then looked away. She was good at not staring. I wasn't sure what you saw last night, she said carefully. I leaned against the frame. You're asking because you care about me. Her eyes flicked up. Straight. Not offended. Not pretending. I'm asking because there are consequences, she said, and they don't land evenly. That was interesting. People who play this game usually say things like, it's not what it looks like, or you're overreacting. Mina skipped straight to consequences. She stepped inside, finally, like she'd decided the house wasn't going to bite. I'm not here to defend her, Mina said. I'm here because if you do something loud, he will do something louder. He, I repeated, like I wasn't sure who she meant. Mina didn't take the bait. Briggs. I let the name sit there. The kind of name that comes with expensive shoes and the confidence of never having to apologize. I didn't do anything loud, I said. Mina's gaze stayed on me for a beat too long, like she was searching for cracks. You blocked her ride, she said. I smiled a little. Did she tell you that? She told me you humiliated her, Mina replied, with a straight face, like the world started 5 minutes ago. My smile didn't change, but something inside me did, because that meant Kala wasn't sorry. She was angry she'd lost control of the script. Mina shifted her weight. Look, she said. Last night wasn't a mistake. It was a test. A test, I repeated. She nodded once. She wanted to see what you'd tolerate in public. If you stayed quiet, it meant she could push farther. I took a slow breath through my nose. My coffee suddenly tasted like metal. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Mina's fingers tightened around her phone. Because when this breaks, she will say you're unstable, and he will back her. They'll make you the problem that needs management. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was familiar. I'm not unstable, I said. I know, Mina replied. That's why it's believable. The calm ones scare people when they finally move. I held her gaze. You're careful with your words. Mina's expression didn't soften. I like paying rent. There it was. Honesty. Not pretty, but useful. I walked to the kitchen, poured coffee into a second mug, and slid it across the counter to her. She didn't drink it. Still, the gesture mattered. It made this feel normal, and normal makes people talk. "What do you want?" I asked. Mina exhaled like she'd been holding her breath since last night. "I want you to be smart." I lifted my mug. "I've been told I'm very boring." Mina's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Good. Stay boring. Don't do anything dramatic. Don't show up at his house. Don't confront him." I sipped my coffee slowly. "You're giving me a list of things you think I'm about to do." "I've seen husbands do it," she said. "And it always ends the same way." I didn't ask what the same way meant. I didn't need the picture. I needed the map. I set my mug down. "So what do you suggest?" Mina hesitated. Just a fraction. Then, "If you're going to do anything, do it clean. Do it with paper. Do it with people who know rules." "Lawyers," I said. "And investigators," she added, like she hadn't meant to. That word landed with weight. I watched her carefully. "You know one?" Mina's eyes flicked toward the window, then back. "There's a guy, Rourke Daly, former security contractor. He follows people. He doesn't break doors. He doesn't invent things. He documents." That was the first real gift she'd offered. And gifts always come with strings. "What's the price?" I asked. Mina's shoulders lifted, then fell. "If this explodes, I don't want to be collateral. I didn't choose this." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I nodded once. "Fair." Mina looked like she'd expected a fight. My agreement seemed to unsettle her more than anger would have. She stepped toward the door, then paused. "One more thing." I waited. She swallowed. "Briggs isn't just involved. He's protected. People owe him." I noticed. "And Calla thinks he's the future," Mina added. "She thinks you're a stage she already walked off." I smiled, but it didn't reach anywhere warm. "That's fine," I said. "Stages have trap doors." Mina left quickly after that, like she'd said too much. Her tires made a soft hiss on the wet street as she pulled away. I locked the door behind her and stood there for a moment, listening to the house breathe. Then I opened my contacts and searched for the name she gave me. Rourke Daly. No photo, no fancy title, just a number. That was promising. The flashy ones sell confidence. The quiet ones sell results. I called. It rang twice. A man answered with a voice that sounded like he didn't waste syllables. "Yeah. My name is Evan," I said. "I need confirmation, not stories, not theories." Silence for a beat. Then a low chuckle, not amused, just acknowledging the language. "Who sent you?" he asked. "Mina Oakes." Another beat. I could almost hear him deciding what kind of trouble I was. "Okay," Rourke said. "You're not the first husband to call, but you're the first one today who didn't start by yelling." "I'm trying a new hobby," I said. Staying calm. Rourke exhaled like that cost him something. "Tell me what you want." I looked at the front door, the marks, the camera above it, the neighborhood pretending it didn't see. "I want the truth," I said. "I want it boring, time-stamped, legal." Rourke didn't hesitate. "Meet me, noon, diner off Route 9, booth in the back." "What do I bring?" I asked. "Your patience," he said, "and cash, the kind that doesn't bounce." The line clicked off. I stared at my phone, then set it down gently, like it might bite. On the counter, my screen lit up with a new notification. A message from Calla. 3 words. "We need to talk." I didn't open it. I walked to the hallway closet, pulled out a small lockbox I hadn't touched in months, and set it on the table. Inside were documents that made our marriage look less like romance and more like shared liability. I sat down, opened the box, and started reading like a man studying an exit route. Because last night wasn't the beginning of my heartbreak. It was the beginning of my plan. And somewhere out there, Briggs Harlan was still asleep in a warm bed, certain he'd won something. I almost admired it. Confidence like that is useful. It makes people stand still when the floor shifts. Rourke picked the diner for a reason. Places like that don't listen. They just refill cups and let people ruin their own mornings. He was already there when I arrived. Back booth, jacket still on, coffee untouched. "You're on time," he said without looking up. I had motivation. He finally met my eyes. Not curious. Evaluating. Like a man deciding how much trouble fits in one folder. "You want confirmation," he said. "So we start with limits. I don't cross property lines. I don't invent scenes. I don't provoke. I watch. I record what anyone on the street could see." "That's fine," I said. "I don't need theater." Rourke nodded. "Good, because theater gets people sloppy." He slid a thin envelope across the table. Inside were dates, times, locations, clean, boring, exactly what I asked for. "She didn't hide it," he said. "Not really. They rely on being ordinary. Same parking deck, same schedule. Familiar places make people careless." "Which deck?" I asked. Rourke tapped one line with his finger. "Northlake, executive level, restricted access." I felt something click into place, not anger, alignment. That deck wasn't just concrete and paint. It was rules, permits, contracts, the quiet machinery that keeps important people comfortable. I worked with that machinery. "You already knew that," Rourke said. "I know how it works," I corrected. "That's different." Rourke studied me for a second longer. "You planning to confront him?" "No," I said. "I'm planning to let him meet consequences that already exist." That earned me a thin smile. Those are the best kind. We left separately. No drama, no handshake. By the time I reached Northlake, the sky had gone flat and gray, the kind of afternoon where light feels rented. The parking deck hummed with engines and impatience. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, turning faces pale and impatient. People hurried through with their heads down, important and anonymous at the same time. I parked 2 levels down and waited. This wasn't stalking. This was observation. There's a difference, and people who matter pretend not to know it. Briggs arrived right on schedule. Black sedan. Polished. Parked where the sign clearly said authorized only. He stepped out, relaxed, jacket open, phone already in hand. A man who had never been told no by a piece of painted metal. I watched from my car as he took the elevator, confident the rules were decorative. I checked the time. Then I made a call. "Lyle," I said when he answered. "Quick question. How many warnings before a violation gets enforced in executive parking?" There was a pause, paper shuffling. "Depends," Lyle said. "But repeat violations? We don't warn. We document." "And towing? Clean paperwork, clean action." "Good," I said, "because I think one just parked himself into a lesson." I hung up and waited. 20 minutes later, the tow truck arrived like it was answering a routine request. No rush, no spectacle, just procedure. When Briggs came back down, the space was empty. For a second, he just stood there, confused, like reality had glitched. Then he saw the truck. He moved fast, not running, but close enough to admit panic. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. Lyle stayed calm, clipboard out, voice steady. "Repeated violation, restricted lane, notices were issued." "I didn't see any notices," Briggs snapped. "They were placed," Lyle replied. "Photographed, logged." I stepped out of my car then, not rushing, not hiding. Briggs saw me and froze. The look on his face wasn't rage. It was recognition, like a man realizing the quiet one has teeth. "You," he said. "This is your doing." I shrugged lightly. "You parked illegally." His jaw tightened. "You think this is clever?" "No," I said. "I think it's accurate." He took a step toward me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, expensive, confident, fading. "You should be careful," he said low. "You don't understand who you're dealing with." I leaned in just enough to make him uncomfortable. I understand parking rules, I said, and I understand habits. Lyle cleared his throat. Vehicle's been logged. You can retrieve it after fees are settled. Briggs turned back to him. This is harassment. Lyle didn't blink. This is enforcement. I watched the truck pull away, Briggs's confidence rolling with it. He looked back at me one last time. You don't own anything in this marriage, he said. You never did. I smiled. That's interesting, I said, because you seem very upset about losing access. He stared at me like he wanted to say more, like he wanted to finish something, but the deck was full of cameras, people, rules. He turned and walked toward the elevator, shoulders tight now. I stayed until he was gone. Then I got back into my car and let the quiet settle. This wasn't revenge. This was calibration. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Calla. 1 message from an unknown number. I opened that one. You're making this worse, it read. Stop before you embarrass yourself. I laughed softly in the empty car, because embarrassment was already off the table. I drove home knowing something important had shifted. They'd expected noise. They'd expected shouting. They hadn't expected compliance with rules they forgot applied to them. And somewhere above me, in an office with glass walls and polished floors, Briggs Harlan was explaining a missing car to someone who didn't care about his excuses. That thought stayed with me all the way home, because once comfort cracks, everything else follows. Paper doesn't look dangerous until it starts removing options. Tessa Vane's office sat above a bakery that smelled like sugar and patience, the kind of place where people came to make decisions they couldn't undo later. She didn't offer sympathy. That was the first thing I liked about her. You're not here to feel better, she said, flipping open a thin folder. You're here to stop the bleeding you don't feel yet. I sat across from her, hands folded. I'd like to keep what's mine and lose what isn't. She nodded once. Good answer. Bad marriages end when one person panics. Worse ones end when both panic. She slid a checklist toward me. Clean font, no drama. First, she said, access. Not money disappearing, just permissions, cards, shared services, anything tied to convenience. I thought about the ride account, the late-night scramble, the way silence had done more than shouting ever could. Already started, I said. Tessa raised an eyebrow. Then you're ahead of schedule. She kept going. Second, documentation. We don't accuse, we preserve, dates, locations, witnesses who exist whether you like them or not. I have help, I said. She didn't ask from whom. Professionals rarely do. Third, she said, tapping the page, you stop explaining yourself. Every explanation becomes material later. I smiled thinly. I've been practicing silence. That's not silence, she corrected. That's restraint. Silence is when you vanish. You're not vanishing. She leaned back. You're repositioning. I left her office with a stack of papers that didn't feel heavy until I realized how many doors they closed behind me. Outside, my phone buzzed. Calla. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to the small cafe 2 blocks away and took the table by the window. Visibility matters. It turns conversations into records. She arrived 5 minutes late, sunglasses on, jaw tight. The confidence from the party had cracked into something sharper. You're enjoying this, she said before sitting. No, I replied. I'm learning. She removed the glasses. Her eyes were red, not fragile. Tired. You embarrassed me, she said. I took a sip of water. You embarrassed yourself, I just left. Her mouth opened, closed. She hadn't rehearsed that response. This has gone too far, she said. You blocked things, changed things. I corrected access, I said. That's different. You're punishing me. I leaned forward slightly. You tested me in public. Her hands curled into fists. It wasn't serious. That's not how tests work, I said. You don't get to decide the result after. She laughed sharply. You think you're in control now? I met her eyes. I think I'm no longer participating. That landed. People like Kala could handle anger. They thrived on it. Detachment terrified them. You don't understand what you're risking, she said. He will not take this lightly. I'm not asking him to, I replied. I'm asking him to be himself. Her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced down. Her expression shifted. Not relief, not anger. Calculation. Mina's name flashed on the screen. Kala flipped the phone face down, too fast. I stood. We're done here. This isn't over, she snapped. I paused, looked at her like I was seeing her for the first time. No, I said calmly. This is the part where it starts costing you. I left her there, coffee untouched, story unfinished. That afternoon, the locks changed, not dramatically, no confrontation, just a quiet technician and new keys, a clipboard, a receipt. At dusk, my phone lit up again. A message from Mina. He knows about the car, he's angry, and he thinks this is still small. I typed back one line. Then he hasn't seen the schedule. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, what schedule? I didn't answer, because the gala invite sat open on my laptop. Date, location, guest list. A room full of people who loved applause, a room full of people who hated discomfort, and one man who thought consequences arrived loudly. I closed the laptop and turned off the lights. Outside, the street settled into evening routines, normal life, borrowed peace. I lay awake that night, not replaying memories but rehearsing timing. Because revenge doesn't arrive screaming, it arrives on time. People think distance makes things quiet. It doesn't. It just removes witnesses. The road out to the lake cut through pine and frost-bitten fields, the kind of landscape that looks peaceful because it doesn't care who you are. My headlights carved a narrow tunnel forward. Everything else stayed hidden by design. Rourke drove separately. That was his rule. No patterns, no shared exits. I parked where the pavement ended and gravel took over. Public road, clearly marked, legal, boring, the best kind of place to wait. Briggs's house sat back from the water, all glass and angles, built to look modest while quietly announcing wealth. Lights were on inside, warm, confident. He entertained here because it made people feel chosen. I stood by my car and listened to the lake move. Slow, heavy, patient. Rourke approached from the opposite side, stopping well short of me. He's inside, he said quietly. Not alone. I expected that. No cameras cover the road, Rourke added. House cameras don't reach public line. Good, I said. Then he can see me if he wants. Rourke studied me. You're not here to shout. No, I said. I'm here to be remembered. We didn't walk together. That would have looked intentional. I took a few steps forward, staying where gravel met asphalt, where no one could say I crossed anything. The door opened. Briggs stepped out like he already knew I was there, jacket thrown on too fast, smile already loaded. Bold choice, he said, spreading his hands slightly. Showing up uninvited. I didn't, I replied. I stayed right where the map allows. He glanced down at the ground, then back up. His smile thinned. You think you're clever, he said. Parking tricks, paper games. I tilted my head. You think you're untouchable. We all have hobbies. He stepped closer, stopping just short of where the gravel ended. You don't scare me, he said. That's fine, I answered. Fear is a side effect, not the goal. He laughed. Too loud. Too quick. You lost, he said. You just haven't accepted it yet. I reached into my jacket slowly, not dramatic, not rushed. He stiffened anyway. I pulled out my phone and held it up so he could see the screen. A single image. Timestamp visible. Public place. Him and Kala entering the house together on a previous night. Nothing graphic. Just undeniable. I don't need more than this, I said. This is enough for people who already have doubts. His eyes flicked to the image, then back to me. You think that ruins me? He scoffed. No, I said calmly. I think it makes you expensive. That landed. He took another step forward. Too close now. Testing. You should walk away, he said quietly, before this gets uncomfortable for you. I didn't move. Instead, I leaned in just enough for him to hear me without anyone else needing to. I've already spoken to an attorney, I said, and a compliance officer who likes things neat. I've scheduled deliveries you can't intercept, and I've learned something interesting about how quickly support disappears when donors start asking polite questions. His jaw tightened. Not anger, worry. I straightened and stepped back. This is the only warning you get, I continued. You stop, completely, or I keep being boring. Is that a threat? He asked. No, I said. It's a forecast. He looked past me then, toward the road, toward the dark, toward the idea that someone else might be watching. That was when I did the only physical thing I'd planned. I reached out and knocked his phone from his hand. Not his face, not his body, just the device. It hit the gravel and split cleanly, screen flashing once before going dark. The sound echoed louder than I expected. Briggs froze. For a moment, the mask slipped. Just a crack. Enough to see the man underneath, the one who had never been interrupted before. That, I said, stepping back fully now, is what it sounds like when control breaks. I turned and walked away before he could say anything else. Behind me, I heard him shout my name. I didn't turn around. Back at my car, my hands were steady. That surprised me. Rourke was already there. Clean, he said. No lines crossed. That was the point. As we drove away in opposite directions, my phone buzzed. A message from June, the bartender. Word travels fast out here. She's been telling people you're unstable. I smiled at the screen. Because unstable men shout, they rush, they make mistakes. I pulled over once more before heading home and typed a reply. Thank you. Keep listening. When I reached my house, the porch light was on. The door was locked. Inside, everything was exactly where I'd left it. Except for one thing. An envelope on the kitchen table. No stamp, no name, just a single line written neatly across the front. You should stop now. I stood there for a long moment, then laughed softly. Because people only write warnings when they've run out of power. And somewhere by a lake, a man was staring at a broken screen, realizing the rules had changed. Power doesn't vanish all at once. It erodes. Quietly, one permission at a time. The envelope stayed on my table until morning. I didn't open it. Warnings are more useful unopened. They tell you someone is watching without telling you how well. By noon, the locksmith arrived. Middle-aged, calm. Clipboard first, tools second. The kind of man who treats doors like contracts. Owner authorization? He asked. I handed him the paperwork. Clean. Boring. Signed. He nodded. Won't take long. I watched from the hallway as he worked. Every click sounded louder than it should have. Not because it was dramatic, because it was final. When he finished, he handed me 2 keys. That's it, he said. Old ones won't work. Good, I replied. He left without curiosity. Professionals rarely ask why. At 2:14 p.m., my phone buzzed. Calla. I let it ring. At 2:16, a text appeared. Why doesn't my key work? I didn't answer. At 2:19, another message. This isn't funny. Still nothing. At 2:23, the door camera notification lit up my screen. She stood there, staring at the lock like it had personally betrayed her. She tried again, harder this time. Nothing. Her shoulders stiffened. The confidence drained fast, replaced by something sharp and unfamiliar. She knocked. Once, then twice, then louder. I stayed seated on the couch where the camera couldn't see me. Silence does strange things to people who rely on reaction. Her phone came out. She paced. She talked to herself. She looked straight at the camera. Open the door, she said, voice tight. We need to talk. I didn't move. 10 minutes passed. A car pulled up behind her. Mina. She stepped out carefully, eyes scanning the street before approaching the porch. What happened? Mina asked. Kala turned on her instantly. He changed the locks. Mina glanced at the door, then at the camera. She lowered her voice. You shouldn't be here. It's my house, Kala snapped. Mina didn't argue. She rarely did when emotions were high. She stepped closer to the door and spoke clearly, measured. Evan, she said, we need to de-escalate this. I almost smiled. De-escalate meant give something back. I stood, walked quietly to the door and spoke through it without opening. There's nothing to de-escalate, I said. Access was corrected. Kala recoiled like the door had shocked her. You can't do this, she said. This is control. No, I replied. This is separation. Mina swallowed. We should leave, she said softly. Kala rounded on her. Don't tell me what to do. A neighbor's curtain shifted across the street. Witnesses always appear when composure disappears. Kala turned back to the door. You're making yourself look unstable, she said, louder now. People will believe me. That's fine, I answered. They're watching you. She froze, just for a second. That second mattered. Her voice rose. Accusations spilled out. Not clever, not rehearsed. Mina stepped back, hands slightly raised, like she was trying to calm an animal that didn't recognize her anymore. This isn't helping, Mina said. You're doing exactly what he wants. Kala laughed sharply. You're on his side now? Mina didn't respond. That silence told me more than words could. A truck rolled slowly down the street and stopped. Lyle stepped out. He didn't rush. He checked his clipboard first. Afternoon, he said calmly. We got a report of a disturbance. Kala turned toward him, disbelief flashing across her face. This is private property. Yes, Lyle said. Which is why I'm here. The owner requested documentation. Mina closed her eyes briefly. I stayed silent. Lyle took notes. Time, location, names, behavior, professional, neutral. When he finished, he looked up. I recommend everyone clear the porch. Kala stared at the door like she could will it open. You planned this, she said quietly. I didn't answer. She stepped back slowly, pride held together by anger. Mina followed, saying nothing. Their car pulled away without looking back. I waited until the street settled again. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Mina. You should know, he's pushing for the gala to move earlier. Weather excuse. I typed back one line. That helps me. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then another message. You're not wrong, but this won't end clean. I looked at the new keys in my hand, felt their weight. Nothing honest ever does, I replied. That evening I opened the envelope. Inside was a single printed page, a copy of a calendar entry. The gala, revised time, private after-event listed underneath. Location, the lakeside house. I folded the page neatly and set it down. Because when people rush events, they make mistakes. And when access disappears, desperation fills the space. They thought the locks were the story. They were wrong. They were just the sound of the door closing. The weather changed faster than anyone expected. By the time I reached the hotel, rain pressed sideways against the glass like it wanted inside. Valets moved with tight shoulders. Security radios crackled. The kind of night where plans lose their edges. Perfect. I didn't arrive early. Early looks eager. I arrived on time, which looks harmless. The ballroom glowed the way expensive spaces do. Warm light, controlled laughter, 1,000 quiet deals disguised as celebration. People dressed for cameras they pretended not to notice. Briggs was already there. I saw him before he saw me. Standing near the center, confident again, confidence rebuilt with speed that bordered on denial. Kala hovered close, hand resting lightly on his arm, like proximity alone could rewrite the past week. She hadn't seen me yet. That mattered. Tessa met me near the side corridor, calm as ever, tablet tucked under her arm like a secret that knew how to behave. "Everything is ready," she said. "Timing matters. Don't rush." "I won't," I replied. "They are." The lights flickered once, then steadied. A murmur moved through the room. People looked up, smiled, laughed it off. Wealth hates acknowledging uncertainty. I moved along the edge of the space, never straight toward them. Angles matter. They make movement look accidental. When Calla finally spotted me, her reaction was immediate. Not shock, calculation. She leaned in close to Briggs and whispered something sharp. I couldn't hear it, but I didn't need to. His posture changed, shoulders squared, smile locked in place like armor. He turned and found me watching. He excused himself from a donor mid-sentence and walked over, confidence rebuilt just enough to pass inspection. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I was invited," I replied. "Same as you." Calla joined him, eyes bright, expression controlled. "You're doing this on purpose," she said. "Trying to cause a scene." "I haven't spoken," I said. "Yet." The lights flickered again, longer this time. Somewhere behind us, staff hurried. Radios chirped. Briggs leaned in. "This ends tonight," he said. "One way or another." I smiled slightly. It already did. He didn't understand that. Not yet. Tessa stepped forward then, perfectly timed, her presence shifting the air without raising her voice. "Mr. Harlan," she said, "you've been served." She handed him the documents calmly, professionally, like this happened every day. Because for her, it did. Briggs stared at the papers, then up at her. "This is inappropriate." "It's lawful," Tessa replied. "And unavoidable." Calla reached for his arm. "Don't read it here." He already was. The room didn't know yet, but it felt it. Conversations thinned, laughter slowed. People sensed gravity the way animals sense storms. That's when the power dipped. Not out, just enough. Lights dimmed, music stuttered. A collective intake of breath moved through the crowd. Security doors along the side corridor slid open as staff rushed to check generators. I used the opening. I moved past Briggs as he argued with Tessa, his voice tight, contained but cracking. Calla followed me into the corridor. "You think you've won," she hissed, "but you don't know what I have." I stopped, slowly turned. "What you have," I said, "is a room full of people who don't like surprises." She smiled then, a sharp, dangerous smile. "You won't do it," she said. "You don't have the nerve." That's when Briggs appeared behind her, eyes locked on me. "You still don't understand," he said. "Mina wasn't helping you. She was protecting herself." I nodded. "I know." That shook him. The corridor lights flickered again, then steadied. From the ballroom came a sound I recognized, the low, uncomfortable murmur of people realizing something had gone wrong. Phones came out, quietly, politely, like knives hidden in sleeves. Calla's smile faltered. "What did you do?" she asked. I stepped back toward the ballroom doors. "I told the truth," I said. "On a schedule." The doors opened behind me. The room had changed. Donors stood in clusters now, whispering. A board member spoke urgently to hotel staff. Someone pointed at Briggs, not subtly enough. The storm outside thundered, loud enough to shake the windows. Briggs looked around, searching for an ally. He didn't find one. Calla's hand slipped from his arm. For the first time, she looked small. I met her eyes once more. "This is where I stop explaining," I said. Briggs tried to speak, but a man in a dark suit stepped between us, voice low, authoritative. "Mr. Harlan," the man said, "we need a private conversation, now." Briggs glanced at Calla. She didn't move. The doors closed behind them. The room swallowed him whole. I stood there for a moment longer, letting the noise settle into something permanent. Then my phone buzzed. A single message. Mina. I gave them everything. Statements, dates, I'm done. I looked back at the doors. The storm outside roared louder, like it approved, because this wasn't the end. Not yet. There was one more place this needed to finish, and it wasn't the ballroom. The hotel emptied faster than it filled. That's how you know something real happened. People didn't rush. They drifted. Smiles stayed in place too long. Conversations turned quiet and practical. The kind that start with, I don't want to be involved, and end with, call me tomorrow. I didn't follow Briggs when security took him aside. I didn't need to. Momentum is a better escort than anger. I stepped outside into rain that had finally decided to fall straight down. Cold, heavy, honest. The valet line was a mess of stalled engines and umbrellas turned inside out. My phone vibrated again. Mina. He's trying to reach people. It's not working. I typed back, it won't. I knew where this ended. Not emotionally. Logistically. The lakeside house. That place wasn't just where he felt powerful. It was where he stored comfort, privacy, the illusion that some spaces belonged only to him. I drove without rushing. Roads slick, wipers steady, headlights slicing through rain like this night still needed convincing. When I arrived, the house was dark. That surprised me. I parked on the public shoulder and cut the engine, listened, wind through trees, water moving somewhere beyond the slope, no music, no laughter, no confidence. Then the front door opened. Calla stepped out. She didn't look composed anymore. Coat half-buttoned, hair pulled back like it had been done in a hurry and regretted immediately. She saw my car and stopped. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she walked toward me, staying on the gravel, staying just inside the lights. You planned everything, she said, not angry, tired. Even this. No, I replied. I planned my exit. You keep walking into it. She crossed her arms like she was cold or trying to hold herself together. You think you're righteous now? I think I'm finished, I said. Her laugh was short, thin. You ruined him. I shook my head. He ruined himself. I just stopped carrying him. She stepped closer. You could stop this. Right now. Call your lawyer. Tell them to pause. Why? I asked. Because you're not like this, she said. You don't do this. I looked at her carefully. Really looked. You don't know what I do, I said. You only knew what I tolerated. Behind her, movement. Briggs appeared in the doorway. No jacket, no phone. Face tight in a way cameras never capture. He took one step forward, then stopped when he saw me. You're enjoying this, he said. No, I replied. I'm observing. He laughed once. Forced. You think tonight ends me? I think tonight ends your access, I said. The rest is arithmetic. He moved toward me quickly, stopping just short of where the gravel met the road, close enough to feel the threat he wanted to project. You don't leave people like me cornered, he said. They push back. I nodded. You already tried. His eyes flicked past me, scanning the road, the dark, the idea of witnesses. I held up my phone, screen lit. Not a photo, a confirmation, a scheduled delivery notice, sent, logged, received, compliance, board review, contract review, suspension pending, boring words, permanent effects. This was always going to happen, I said calmly. You just sped it up. He stared at the screen like it might change if he waited long enough. Calla spoke then, voice breaking despite herself. You promised me this wouldn't touch us. Briggs didn't look at her. That told me everything. I stepped back toward my car. This is where I leave, I said. After tonight, we don't share anything. Not space, not stories, not silence. Calla's voice rose. You think you win by walking away? I opened the car door and looked at her one last time. I win by not coming back, I said. Briggs took a step forward, anger finally pushing through control. This isn't over. I closed the door and lowered the window just enough for him to hear me. It is for me, I said. That's the part you never learned. I pulled out slowly. Not dramatic. Not fast. In the mirror, I saw them standing there, the house behind them dark, the lake invisible, the night offering no comfort. Two people who had lost the one thing they thought was permanent: control. My phone vibrated as I reached the end of the road. Tessa. Board vote initiated. Immediate suspension. I didn't reply. I turned onto the highway, rain fading, city lights returning in the distance. The road opened up, and for the first time in weeks, there was nothing following me. I drove forward and didn't look back.